Hello and welcome to Football 301 / Yahoo Fantasy Forecast Recap Show. It's a crossover / not crossover. We're all here, so might as well just do it together. I'm Nate Tice, joined by Matt Harmon, Charles McDonald. How you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing great, man. I've never felt better in my entire life.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Nothing's better than doing like a 4 or 5 hour live show and then immediately hopping on the podcast right after. But no, I am pretty fired up. It was a fun night.
Yeah, we used to call this A-barring at Madison, at Wisconsin. You know, after bar. That's what it feels like right now. Yeah, a little 2 a.m., 4 a.m.
I need an AA bar after this one.
You hear Charles McDonald there? How you doing today, Chuck?
Well, look,
good go.
as my family members in Mississippi like to say, I'm alive to see a day I ain't seen before, you know? And that's about all I got.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah,
we got
a few more hours.
On East Coast time, yeah, maybe. No, but we just wrapped up our round 1 live stream, which you can watch on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, but also you can watch that on the Yahoo Sports app, which I highly suggest that you download before day 2, because we're going to be doing a day 2 live stream of rounds 2 and 3, every single pick on Friday night. But it's a great time to download the app. We've added live activities on iOS, so you can watch each draft pick come through directly from your lock screen. Don't even have to do a little swipe thing or password. Check out the full draft coverage, grades, watch our day 2 coverage. It's great. Check out the Yahoo Sports app. Make sure to download it by tomorrow night or today if you're listening to this in the morning on Friday. But anyways, we are here to recap round 1, which has included 32 picks. Got some interesting things that happened, to say the very least. But we're going to start with some superlatives. But actually, before we get to the superlatives, we're going to go with Shedeur Sanders, kind of the main story of the night, falling out of round 1 completely. Matt, why do you think he fell? Let's just start off right there.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado Buffaloes dominate round 1 headlines. The only, big trade up in the top 10 is for Travis Hunter, and then Shedeur Sanders falls out of the first round. I really don't think, it was all that surprising. It's been trending this way for a while, and, frankly, I think this is the type of prospect he should be evaluated as. We've been talking about it the whole time. You and Dane talked about it, in the middle of the college football season this year, that he looks more like a day 2 pick, because just from a traits perspective, he doesn't stack up. Any of his interviews, or does he rub people the wrong way or whatever, from a bottom line perspective, he just doesn't have the traits of a first round quarterback. He can still go in the second round and be successful. That's fine. But again, I think if you've been paying attention throughout the process, this was not that big of a surprise.
Charles, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I agree with Matt. And I think that there was a whole lot of, during the season and right after the season, probably a lot of quarterback thirst. You're probably not happy with how your favorite team quarterback played. You're looking for an upgrade. You see everyone talking about Shedeur Sanders. So I said on the show, but these are media creations during the season. And, a lot of people like you and I, Nate, we spend a whole lot of time looking at draft stuff during the season. And we're pretty good at guessing on where guys are going to go, but you don't actually get confirmation until after the season when the general managers, when the head coaches are looking at it. Because, Brian Daboll could need he can need a quarterback, but is he looking at that while he's game planning for the Eagles in Week 15? Probably not really. So when they finally get to it, this is a second round guy. Then we catch up as media, and now we're here. So I think this is honestly a good lesson for if you're a draft person, or if you're someone who likes to draft, how to read into some of the stuff you see during the season, because most of the time that's just me and Nate. Like, oh, I like that guy. Right. Yeah, I like that guy too. And then after the season, we'll get some more info.
But by the way, you said quarterback thirst, there's really not that many open spots.
Right.
That's another thing. Yeah. Once we got past, the Steelers, obviously, that's still an open spot, but if they don't like him any more than they like the idea of Aaron Rodgers in this season, that's not a spot that's available. And then beyond there, it's the Giants, it's the Browns. You talked about it when Charles, when we were going to have Travis Hunter be a Cleveland Brown, which we don't have to live in that reality, thankfully. Okay. But you said they're not ready to do anything this year. So what's the point of taking a first round quarterback? You're not ready to be a good incubator for that guy. And then obviously again, Jackson Dart goes to the Giants. That's an open spot. But then after that, there really wasn't that much thirst this year, because right or wrong, teams have convinced themselves their current starter is the guy they're going with.
And usually when you get a team, or you're trying to move back into the 20s for a guy, I think there's a disconnect sometimes with how we view quarterbacks. Tom Brady gets talked about that he doesn't have traits, even though he's 6'5", 230 pounds, went to Michigan and had a plus arm, and they got better in the NFL. The NFL is a traits league, and that is not just running back and receiver and edge and all these positions. It's quarterback as well. And I think that's the disconnect that happened with Shedeur Sanders, was that he is sub 6'2", which used to be a non-starter for quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You were Drew Brees, who's 6'1" and change, with the same height as Caleb Williams, and no one brought it up with Caleb Williams. Drew Brees had to wait till second round because he was sub 6'2" 20 years ago. He's skinnier, on the skinnier side. He's not a thicker build like Caleb or Drew Brees is, or Russell Wilson or Kyler Murray, those guys that have the same build. And on top of it, he's more of an adequate athlete, not an excellent athlete or even a very good athlete. You know, Jackson Dart, do I consider a first rounder? No. Yeah. But he has traits. And that's what it really comes down to. And I've said this, I mean, I've considered him a day two guy throughout this entire process going into last year. Felt crazy for a little bit, but it always comes down to the traits. And the line, and it's an old scouting line, that's Hannibal Lecter ran a 4.3. The NFL would just say they had an eating disorder. Yeah. There are so many personalities in this league, in the NFL, that are big personalities, that are coaches can be intimidated by, and they'll still take them because they're talented and they think they're worth any of that. It's a sliding scale. So if your on-field ability is good, they'll make excuses to take you. And that's why I think all the disconnect of the conversation with Shedeur was that, oh, it's his on-field or his off-field personality. It's all about on-field. That is your biggest part of your resume. So I think this is more where he should be going. And I think it's just there's a lot of recalibration kind of going on right now. Having said that, any fits maybe for Sanders or any other quarterbacks that might pop off on day two.
Like Matt said, it's kind of tough pegging landing spots because there aren't too many teams that feel like they need a quarterback. And two that did, Tennessee and Giants, they filled those holes. So I think Cleveland at the top of round two makes a whole lot of sense, only because now you're looking at a low impact investment. You know, if your second round quarterback doesn't work out, no one's really batting an eye.
Yeah, no one cares.
You can move on from that pretty quickly. Yep. And I honestly
think the Browns have done it plenty.
Right. They've done it with worse than second round picks. Yeah. I think what actually fits here is you get to potentially draft Shedeur Sanders without the expectations, which is what they need, considering they paid Myles Garrett, still got the Deshaun Watson money coming. You can't let that roster fall in the total disarray, so you're going to need to pay some more players. I think that's a great, from a risk assessment perspective, that's a good spot for him to go.
I still think New Orleans is perfect for him too, because I love his fit in Kevin Stefanski's offense. I don't love him, throwing like late in the season, in the wind and the winter, in the conditions of Cleveland. In New Orleans, being a dome, you're in decent weather in some of these NFC South games at portions of the year. I do think he fits well in Kellen Moore's like quick game concepts and stuff like that. And again, if he is their second round pick and like he starts this year and it doesn't go well, okay, well, we can just take another guy next year. If they'd taken him in the first round, then there's all these expectations. And like you said, like now I think you've kind of eased that if he's your second round pick.
Absolutely. Yeah. And all right, let's move on to maybe some of the other big surprises, relative surprises, or surprises for some, I should say. But Matt, what was maybe your biggest surprise of round one?
I mean, I think this was the most surprising pick of round one, which was Emeka Egbuka to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And there's a couple reasons it's surprising. Number one, it's an offensive player. I think basically every mock draft for a long time had them as a defensive team. I mean, they were like Jahad Campbell area for the longest time. And if not that, then a pass rusher. We talked about that when we did our mock draft. Like that seemed to be the way they were going to go. But if they were going to go, I could squint at like a Matthew Golden type just because it's a different version of receiver than they have. I'm not that high on Jalen McMillan. I actually think that Matthew Golden is like the actualized version of what people think Jalen McMillan is. So I could have talked myself into that. But Egbuka, number one, it's the position, it's wide receiver, and then it's the guy. Like I think if Emeka Egbuka is going to hit his upside, he probably would be like a Chris Godwin type. But Chris Godwin's on the roster, like, and you just signed him back. So I can't quite square. Like, is this a signal that maybe they're not all that confident in Chris Godwin, like starting the season or getting back to form? But then again, if that's the case, why'd you sign him back? I know he's like a franchise kind of cornerstone. He's a great character guy. He really he's so critical to them getting lined up in the right spot. But I just can't quite see, like, if everybody's healthy, where Igbuka fits into the equation here.
That's kind of where I'm at with that one too.
Right.
And again, the positive side was like, oh yeah, Jason Light does a great job of bridging the present to the future, and who knows what Mike Evans, how many years he's got in the tank. It's just, I don't know. It felt almost like a luxury pick, and where they have they just a lot more made sense. I guess it's not like the worst thing I've ever seen. It's just other aspects or other ways they could have gone, directions they could have gone made sense. I still think maybe Shamar Stewart popped off right before them at 17, maybe changed some of that, recalibrated a little bit. But again, this is just, I don't know. That I agree that one was surprising. Again, not bad,
and
just
the player is good. Like we all
love Igbuka. I know
that's the tough part about it. Is that all three of us are big Igbuka fans, and it's just like him being picked in that range of the draft. Great. Like he's a clear first round graded receiver to me. Like that's where you want to take him. It's just this team taking him. I do think Shamar Stewart maybe going off the board, and maybe they didn't want to take like the falling red flag guys, whether it's medical with Jahad Campbell, or medical with Will Johnson, or the off-field stuff with Mike Green. Like, so maybe hey, we're taking probably the safest player in the late first round, which was Igbuka. It's an odd position.
Yeah. Charles, what was your biggest surprise in the first round?
You know what exactly I'm about to say?
I was trying to get it out before
the damn Falcons. What's going on here?
Oh, you didn't like the Jalen Walker pick, or did they do something? That's all they did, right?
What happened after the Jalen Walker pick, guys?
It's funny because I was talking to producer Madison, and she was like, "Yeah, you seem pretty normal after the Jalen Walker pick." I was like, "Yeah, because it's nothing to react to. They picked Jalen Walker at 15, makes a whole lot of sense. But to trade back in for James Pierce, which if you can look at it in the vacuum, I think we had James Pierce." Or at least I had James Pierce like in the low 30s on my board. Yep. So the pick him at 26 is not that offensive. But to give up a damn first round pick next year, and this goes back to something that Nate, you and I have talked about over the past 2 years with this Falcons team. Hubris is the word. Dude, they think they're so much better than they are.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is baffling because they haven't won a damn thing in a long time. They've been to the playoffs since 2017 season.
Yeah. Wow.
The year Nick Foles led the Eagles to the Super Bowl. That was the last time the Falcons made the playoffs. So it's been a while, man. Like you're coming up on 10 years since you've been in the postseason. So I understand like if there's a rush from Arthur Blank to try and get there, I don't think you can make this move without Arthur Blank's approval.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're paying so much to get James Pierce. I just can't believe that they felt like they had to spend that much. To me, it shows Terry Fondo's job is on the line this year, which means Raheem Morris is not fully safe either. So why are you letting Terry trade future picks if he's not safe, as this trade would suggest? And you made a great point, Nate, during the show. You're so small on defense.
Oh, man.
So I remember when Dan Quinn was the head coach of the Falcons, one of their biggest problems was on the edges, they were so light. Like you're talking about moving like a 270-pound Adrian Claiborne into defensive tackle. That's how light you are sometimes. With Vic Beasley and Tack McKinley, and they signed Bruce Irvin too. So you're just getting washed off the edges. This is giving me the same kind of vibes as that. It also makes me wonder, like, where do you view Jalen Walker? Because in this defense, I guess he's kind of a hybrid player that's going to play a little bit of both. I still think he should be more moving forward, rushing the passer. Obviously, James Pierce is going to rush the passer. You've got another small defensive end in Arnold Ebiketie. Like, this is a really, really small defensive end group, unless you're hoping that, like, Zach Harrison or someone like that, you know, really, really blossoms this year. So, look, they needed the pass rush help, but the way they went about it and the players they got, I think you just left yourself vulnerable in so many different facets.
And also, it's just that, okay, you can have lighter edges. It's just other parts of your defensive line has to be beefy and like space eaters and ass kickers. And it's no, they don't have that. No. So it's like, yeah, you're getting after the passer. It's a passing league. Guess what NFL teams, every football team from 9 years old, Pee-wee upwards will do? Oh, we can run it?
Yeah.
Why throw the ball? Oh, I can just run it for 5-6 yards a pop. That's what it's just, you know, and then using Walker, at first I was like, oh, I actually like that pick. Their defense, they can use him as kind of almost like how Zach Bond is used in Philly, where he's a blitzer at sometimes down forward, always going forward. Can be the pass rusher and passing downs. Just use him in creative ways. I actually could see the vision there. And this one just felt like, okay, now you're making it worse. Yeah. You just did your good thing and now you just made it worse. And you're sacrificing so much. And this draft class plateaus talent-wise. That's why that confused me. It's like, this was not the draft to move up back into the 20s, unless you're taking a quarterback. But even then, I'm going, these quarterbacks I didn't agree with taking back in the 20s. So no, that makes sense. Like, it just, the value of it, what you're going after, it's like, yeah, we're getting after the passer. And now you're going to the guy that also needs coaching and development to impact the game outside just getting after the passer. Yeah, it's just, they just create a lot of their own messes. And yeah, that's probably.
You made the point about the teams in their division too, like all of these pass-kicking run games.
Panthers, Bucks, and Saints, all three teams. Two of them invested in their offensive line like recently, and last year the Bucks invested in their offensive line. All of them have run games. My biggest surprise, I had a couple, and it wasn't, again, not necessarily negative, but it was the Dolphins taking Kenneth Grant at pick 13. Just surprised. That was not that Kenneth Grant went high. Yeah, I could understand why teams would get bullish on him. I believe we're pretty bullish on him overall. He was a guy that was like, oh yeah, I could see him going higher because of what he brings to the table. It's just the Dolphins taking him, because I think we're just trying to figure out the Dolphins, and it was like,
what's next?
And I thought maybe, offensive line, there's just a few different ways that I just didn't think Kenneth Grant was the step they were going to take. The other one though is, and this is more a team going against type. It was about what they've done historically, is the Packers taking Matthew Golden.
Yes.
Not bad. And I thought actually, Matt, your analysis, which I want you to repeat here, kind of like what the Packers kind of ecosystem is, but this is more just that the Packers haven't taken a receiver in the first round since 2002, and he is below their usual weight thresholds. But I would say the positive is the rest of the room is so big and can handle all these things. You can drop in a quote unquote, maybe slightly undersized guy in there. But Matt, you had some great analysis, I thought, about the Golden and the fit with the Packers. What'd you think about that?
Well, yeah, as we're sitting here at, past 10 p.m. Pacific, we don't know yet if Matthew Golden has come out and said that I'm actually 197 pounds now. So that is still
it's a big decider.
Still TBD. Yeah. But yeah, just in terms of him, like, And I tweeted out like, oh, I love the fit, with the Packers, and a couple of people replied like, no, they needed a number one, and you said that Matthew Golden is a complimentary receiver. I think this idea that the Packers need a number one is a little bit overstated, because like, yes, it's nice to have an alpha receiver. Really, number one, really freaking hard to find that guy. And number two, if you don't find that guy, what you actually need is somebody to dictate coverage to the defense. And what they have is they have a bunch of good players in that room. Like, I am still high on Jaden Reed and think there's another step for him. I still think like Dontavian Wicks is not a guy I would give up on just because he really had issues at the catch point last year. Romeo Doubs is solid, but without Christian Watson, who I also think is like a replaceable player, you don't have anybody that really stretches out the defense. So that's number one why I think it's a good thing, especially because you're a run heavy team. You want to get bodies out of the box. Golden's going to allow you to do that. But secondly, like, his two best routes from a frequency and a success rate standpoint in reception perception were posts and digs. This offense, especially with Jordan Love under center, they want to use play action or drop back and rip big inbreakers. Like Matthew Golden, his route running and separation is best expressed at the break point of those routes in particular. So great fit for the routes that they want to have him run. I think he's going to open things up for the guys that teams can't just squat like man coverage, press at the line of scrimmage. So a lot of benefits, again, both schematically, tactically, but also just what he will give you as a wideout as well.
Actually, it was a surprise that as I sat here, because I just hadn't pictured Golden in that offense, I was like, oh, maybe they're the McMillan team, actually, Tatoria McMillan. And then Golden ended up there. It was like, oh, okay, they need a field stretcher, which you refer to, which is what Christian Watson was in this offense, or his best use. They needed that to open things up. So it was one of those where it's like, okay, yeah, this makes more sense than maybe what I thought. He's the Z. Reed is the slot. Dobbs is the X. They got Tucker Kraft, who I'm very high on. Luke Musgrave as well is another field stretcher at tight end. So, okay. All right. We're okay. We can do something here.
Despite the physical dimensions too, by the way, like everything that Christian Watson, I hate to bag on Christian Watson because he's not even going to play this season probably because he's injured, but like everything that he would think he'd give you, like big toughness at the catch point, like that Matthew Golden actually does that. Right. Like running these in, like, because Watson is a Z receiver for them. He's not an X despite his build. They kind of have like a sacrificial X receiver in Romeo Doubs, really. So I think it just like you're basically replacing Watson. It just it comes in a different package.
That's it. Yeah, but that role in the offense, though. All right, we are going. Oh man, actually. You did bring up the dig routes, and it was so funny because it's like that's what they throw over and over. Dagger, seam, dagger, seam, dagger, over and over. But
he could do either though. He could be the guy
the
that's
seam
clearing
guy,
it
the field
out,
stretcher,
or he could be the
and that's where you have the big bodies working underneath it.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to take our first break, and then we're going to get back with some of our favorite picks and some of our least favorite picks. I know what Charles might be.
The Yahoo Sports app is your ultimate draft day companion. With live activities, you can keep up with every pick without even unlocking your phone. Beef up on the incoming rookie class with expert analysis, grades, and prospect breakdowns. Download the Yahoo Sports app right now and get ready for draft night like a pro.
All right, we are back with the FB 301/YFF crossover. It's getting late. I gotta keep myself entertained, guys. All right, so we are doing our favorite picks now. Charles, start with you. What was your favorite pick of the first round?
Oh, I was really worried about the Browns, but I love how they went about this first round.
Totally redeemed yourself.
Yes, totally. Because I was sitting there, oh my God, they're going to take a wide receiver number 2 overall when they have all these problems. But they traded down. You pick up the first round pick from Jacksonville, which, hey, that's the Jacksonville Jaguars, okay?
Yep.
As much, right. Don't need to go too much, but they had the 5th pick this year for a reason. Yep. They were not a good football team. I think you can say that even trading the first round pick for them was a risk, but we'll see what happens. I think the Browns to be able to get that pick was huge in terms of their rebuild, though, because you're strapped for cap space over the next few years with big investments in Deshaun Watson and Myles Garrett. So you need cheap players. Best way to do that is draft picks. So I thought the process to get here was good. And then they picked the player they really needed. Because if you looked at their defensive tackle room prior to drafting Mason Graham, you would have said this is a clear, red alert need for the Cleveland Browns, to a point where, you got Myles Garrett, but we can run away from Myles Garrett if you don't have the defensive tackles on the field. So I think to get someone like Mason Graham into the fold makes a big difference. And at his best, he can be one of those defensive tackles that gets 7, 8, 9 sacks in the season, which is obviously what you want to have next to Myles Garrett. So I really, really like that pickup for the Browns.
The one D tackle they still had in the roster, and I actually kind of forgot about the guy because he kind of got into his own issues, was Mike Hall, the guy from Ohio State, a defensive tackle, really disruptive player. I was really high on him last year and actually had some flashes once he finally saw the field. So actually it's like, that got me pretty excited. In the Jim Schwartz defense, Mason Graham, Mike Hall, Myles Garrett, Ogo, go. Ear spin back, go. I thought this was a much better defensive fit for Graham too. Again, one gapping, just going. So yeah, I really like that. We'll talk more about the Travis Hunter trade in a moment. Matt, what was your favorite pick of round 1?
Harmon Membu to the Jets, man. Number one, I'm just a big fan of the player. I've said this a lot, that he is really fun to watch, even if you don't like watching offensive line play, which you should like watching offensive line play. But I mean, he's so aggressive. I think he's really a tone setter. And he just, to me, is a finishing piece for this Jets offensive line that they've been trying to fix, trying to build up. And I think they've got some hits there. Fashanu looks like a dude as their left tackle. When he's on the field, Elijah Vera Tucker is a really, really good player. Like John Simpson, Joe Tipton, these guys, I think that's a pretty good foursome. And then you just stick Membu at the end at right tackle, and you suddenly have I'm not going to say this is the Detroit Lions offensive line, but you're building the team that way. Yep. And everything that the Jets have done this offseason has been signaling, hey, we're going to run the piss out of the football. Defensive minded head coach. You get Justin Fields as your quarterback. And to me, the reason Justin Fields is a New York Jet is because anytime he would go, he might have been in a slump of all slumps as the Bears quarterback. He saw Aaron Glenn's defense on the other side, and he would just run over them. Yeah. So I just think he's going to be very involved in the run game, and Membu is going to be a huge asset there. And beyond the fact that I think technically, I think he gets a little undersold for what he is as a technician, as an offensive lineman. Still raw and developing a little bit, but if he can get all the way there, he can also be a stalwart pass protector. But I think about Tanner Engstrand as the offensive coordinator coming from Detroit. They really weaponized Penei Sewell as their right tackle, and I think maybe not right away, but in time, Harmon Membu can be that type of player for them.
Yeah, you mentioned Fashanu. That's a high potential bookends right there that not a lot of teams can even speak
and
to.
Young, man.
Yep. Athletic. They fit in any type of offense too, which is nice. So if they want to remold to this offense based on if once they move on from field, somebody gets in a year or two. But for what they are now, let's lean into the run game. I made this joke on the show, but Jets games might last 2 hours because they're going to run the ball so much. And their best room on their offense is their running back room. So Breece Hall, TBD though.
Yeah, we'll
TBD.
see.
But Braylon Allen, go Badgers, and then Isaiah Davis, who like Aaron Rodgers, I looked like was begging to get on the field, and I think he actually was right with one of his evaluations. So but now we got the Jets.
Just don't look at Malachi Corley.
I think the Jets O-line though, like this.
Wow.
The Jets have been they like as soon as Aaron Glenn got there, they've been in timeout. Or I would say timeout, but just like maybe meditating on themselves a little bit. And I like this. It's like, this is what you should be doing. Good job. Like, way to stay patient. This is exactly the type of investment. Made sense to take Membu. Yeah, really liked it. I'm going to go with, there was a combo at pick 10, 11, which were two, it was Colson Loveland to the Bears, and then Michael Williams, number 11, to the 49ers. That ended up being probably my favorite pick of the first round. Not probably, it is. One is just because I could envision it. I could see what the 49ers were needing. They've been really kind of lost their way up front. It's a defense that wants to play light boxes, and they needed guys that can stop the run. And they want to have speed. They want to get upfield as well, ears pinned back and all that. But they need a guy to set the edge. They need a guy to push the pocket. And I think he's just a perfect edge player to complement Nick Bosa. I couldn't ask for a better pairing. Finesse guy, power guy. Also, it's young, developing pass game. I think he's going to be a plus run defender right away. Yeah, I was all for this. D tackle, edge, or O line for them. I was like, hopefully they're going to do it. I like Michael maybe better than some of the other answers they might have gone. Like I like him better than Shamar Stewart for them. I like him better than Walter Nolan for them. This one made a lot of sense to me, and I really like the pair.
Because you talk about like the development of the 49ers defensive line. When they were at their best, they had 4 first-round picks.
Right.
You know,
right.
You had
develop, right?
I think D Ford was a second-round pick, but you had Art Armstead, DeForest Buckner, Nick Bosa,
Kinlaw,
you know, who they tried.
Yeah, they tried.
Give the college tries. Now, you know, Chris Corrick's been a guy who's gotten a lot of love in the media, so here's a chance to actually go develop someone that you might have not done the past few years.
It's not like a reclamation project.
No.
Right.
Like you're actually
because that hasn't gone too well for them.
And why I stayed so bullish on Michael too is that like a lot of his plays, even though he's developmental, weren't bad. And so that was encouraging to me. There's something to that when you're just, you're not making the play or making the significant play, but you're also not the negative on the team. I don't know. There's something to that for a 20-year-old.
Yeah. You're not the reason your linebacker gets messed up.
Right.
Which I can take.
Exactly. All right. We're going to go to the flip side of this. Least favorite pick of the first round. Charles, start with you.
Either of the running back picks probably, but I'm going to go with Amari Hampton from the Chargers. And then I want to point this out because I love the player. And in theory, I love the fit with that style of offense. You know, power run game. We're not trying to hide who we are. We're going to give our running back 1 million carries. I just don't think the Chargers are nearly good enough to be making this pick. Like, when I look at their interior offensive line, that still looks like a disaster zone to me. Mekhi Becton is an improvement.
Is Jeff Salon coaching him?
Right. And also, to me, it's more... You get caught up on some of the pancake blocks. You get caught up on the height, weight, speed, but the consistency down and down is not there. Like even in the Super Bowl,
the whole playoff run,
really did not have a great time.
Yep.
But you know when you got Saquon Barkley, all you need is to move someone just a little.
And if you have a big block on a Saquon Barkley touchdown run, everyone goes, Mekhi Becton had a great game,
great game. Right?
Watch that one.
That's all it takes. So I still think there's a whole lot of potential for them to be. You know, if you look at the amount of drives that the Chargers wasted and didn't even get to another first down. They were almost half of their drives. They were worse in the league at that specific stat. I don't know how this pick makes you better because you're still going to try to do the same thing. You still have the same ecosystem that's there. So maybe you get a little bit better.
Yeah.
But to me, this still profiles as one of the worst offenses in football.
Right.
I don't think you did nearly enough to change that. Signing Mekhi Becton and adding Amari Hampton and Najee Harris does not change what you were last year. And I think that that's really concerning for them.
I disagree with you a little bit just because number one, I'm also really high on Hampton.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player. And I just don't think any of their backs were that good last year. Like J.K. Dobbins had a couple of like long runs, which certainly Hampton's going to do that as well. But I think actually having Harris and especially Hampton, who this will be especially from a fantasy perspective, like Harris is going to get the veteran deference probably in September and like he's going to lead the team in carries. But by December, like Hampton's going to be the guy you want. So you just got to be patient there. But I think in time, those guys, like from a tandem perspective, are going to really elevate that run game because I think the bones of it were there last year. I actually just think the backs were a bigger issue than people wanted to make because Dobbins was a good story, but they do need more work, especially
they need a lot more work.
They need a lot more work on the interior and like pass catcher too. Obviously, they got to add a body.
When you look at like the best versions of Greg Roman's offense that he's had in the NFL, 2019 you go to Baltimore, Marshall Yanda on the interior.
Yeah.
You have the healthiest version of Ronnie Stanley that you've seen. You go back to the Chargers, Micah Potty. Who was the Alex? I forget what his name is. He played guard at Ohio State. That ended up coming in.
I know.
Undrafted guy.
No, I know exactly who you're talking about.
You got Jay Staley.
Dude,
dude, these are big, talented offensive lines. Yeah. You got two guys in Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater.
Yeah.
Rashawn Slater, who misses half the games every year.
Yep. Yeah.
Joe Alt, who's a rookie. So to me, you got 1.5 offensive linemen for an offense that wants to run the ball every play.
The Chargers are a weird team. Like I like the Hampton pick.
It was objectively one of the worst
their roster so much last year.
They did, and then the roster's kind of like the same.
It is.
Yes,
like
they
brought everyone back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I know. Yeah,
so like shaky guard and 2 running backs.
I'm kind of. Like I'm kind of with you, but I like the player so much, and I think he's going to be such a good fit that's why I don't want to kill the pick. But I do think it's sort of like we talk about with the Dolphins. Like I don't really know what the hell the Dolphins are. With the Chargers, more like I don't really know what the Chargers are. I have a little more intrigue with it.
You know who else I forgot about the Ravens off the line? Orlando Brown Jr., who was the right tackle.
Yeah, that's right.
That was big ass.
They were really good.
Really
Greg
good,
Roman,
big.
every year he's had success, he's had the offensive line to pull it off.
Yeah, right. It's a lot easier.
Yes.
When you have talent up there, it's like, oh, go do your thing, guys. Thanks. That was a lot easier. These designs work out a lot better. I'm with you. When they brought back Bozeman, I was like,
Yeah.
You don't think you need an upgrade there? No? Okay. All right. That's what you're doing. That's kind of how I looked at it. I thought they were going to go defense, or if a tight end was there, meaning Loveland or Warren was there, maybe. But I thought they were going to go defense all the way because, again, they outperformed what they have on the roster. But that means you need talent to make your job easier. So that one was a curious decision. I do like Hampton. I agree. I use my back two. This is where I thought he would go, somewhere in the 20s as well. I totally get him going in the first round. Chargers was a curious landing spot. Matt, your least favorite pick of the first round?
I mean, Tyler Warren to the Colts, man. Come on. I just they don't need another guy that they can't get the football to. And actually, how does that make them any better? To be fair, there was nothing they could do in round one that would really make me think they're going to be a better team. Ultimately, I just think the season's going to go exactly like this. Both those guys, Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, are going to play. They're going to start games. I don't know what order. I don't know which one's going to go first, which one's going to go second, and which one are they going to go back to the, again? And then everybody's going to get fired at the end of the year. I don't know that there's really anything in round one that they could have done that would make me feel any differently than that, but certainly taking a first round tight end doesn't really move the needle for me. And again, I admit my bias here that I like Pittman. I love Downs. I'm intrigued by A.D. Mitchell, and Alec Pierce is an interesting player as well. So I already think those guys weren't being maximized enough. I don't understand how throwing another body into the mix for a team that just doesn't have a consistently accurate quarterback. I don't understand how that's going to really move the needle here. And secondly, the more I think about the Tyler Warren pick specifically, he's not just a traditional inline tight end that you're going to throw out there and let him go do real tight end things. You got to kind of design things for him. You got to get him working horizontally to be a yards after catch player. Well, Michael Pittman's best stuff is when you get him working horizontally. A.D. Mitchell, for his good plays, his good routes where he pops in certain separation metrics, is when you get him moving horizontally. And okay, great. Josh Downs, get him running those dig routes, stuff like that. And you got two quarterbacks who don't anticipate and can't hit guys in stride. So just great. Tyler Warren, that's the sort of stuff you're going to have to do with him. And again, you just don't have a quarterback who can maximize that.
It also I would say the interesting group of pass catchers they have or receivers I have. I would say we're in agreement. Downs is probably the productive one, the one that's like, okay, the most sure thing.
He's
now
the best.
you're eating to a guy that is going to fill the same area of the field.
Yeah.
In a lot of the same roles.
Yep.
And also with Warren, as dynamic he is with the ball in his hands and some of the versatility he can do, it's just kind of like this isn't really the offense I envisioned him in. I envisioned him with one had different sets of weapons. Like with him, like Steichen can use Warren on RPOs, keep him out of blocking in line. But again, it's like, all right, now I need a blocking tight end on my roster, a true one. Okay. All right. Now we're just creating more problems. Now we have a slot only guy, Downs, who's good, but it's only slot only. All right. Pierce can only run certain routes. Like everybody's going to become specific. And that's not what you want to do in the first round.
A first round tight end is a luxury pick.
Yes.
Like, and you made the point to Fitz when, he was giving you grief for your Ashton Genty pick, Charles, or your grade, Charles, is like, you didn't give him a good grade for Brock Bowers last year, and you immediately said, like, yeah, how many games did they win? Like, and Bowers had a historically productive season for a rookie tight end. Warren's number one, not going to come anywhere close to that, but it's just like that doesn't move the needle for you. Like, great, you cleared out a bunch of space and your tight end ate on a bunch of routes. Like that it just doesn't do it for you. And like this is a team that had other needs.
Yeah.
Like they had needs at pass rusher. They had needs on the offensive line. 2 offensive linemen left this offseason.
Yes.
I know they have some in-house replacements, but geez, like again, I admit my bias here, but I also think it doesn't make a lot of football sense.
I mean, can you imagine a world, to the Brock Bowers point, where the Colts give Tyler Warren like 160 targets this year? No way.
They're going to be a run-first team no matter what.
Yeah, that's another thing.
No matter what. It doesn't matter how they invest in pass catchers. Their 2 quarterbacks, Richardson and Jones, are run-first quarterbacks. That's how they win. And it's an offensive coordinator or offensive play caller that'll use that. Yeah. They're never going to be a pass-heavy offense. Even if Anthony Richardson sticks long-term, it'll never be a pass-heavy offense. So, again, it's just like this. I don't know. It's just not – I would much rather have a – like burly blocker tight end in day 2 than a guy that's more of a, receiving only one. Yeah. It's too much of a luxury for a team that can't afford any luxuries right now, to be honest. My least favorite pick, that is just because I just didn't think any quarterback outside of Cam Ward deserved to go in the first round. That's the Giants moving back into the first round to take Jackson Dart. This is just more my assessment of all the quarterbacks in this class. I already talked about Shedeur Sanders. After Cam Ward, I kind of grouped everybody else in on day 2. And I get it. The quarterback desperation is always a thing. But really why this is my least favorite pick, it's just like this is the Giants continuing to, I don't know, try and do things to keep their jobs afloat, try to also build long-term, do short-term at the same thing. They have a quarterback room with 2 veteran guys that used to be the dudes. I don't think they're really intent on being or really keen on being mentors for a guy that I think is going to need mentorship. It's an offensive staff or a coaching staff and a GM that needs to win. But then their developing guy, they need offensive line help because their current quarterback, whether it's the vet or the rookie, kind of folds under pressure. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else am I missing here?
This is why we didn't want them to draft Shedeur in the first place.
Correct.
It was because
any quarterback.
Any quarterback in the first round. Because, man, look, if you're watching on the YouTube screen, we have the Giants depth chart with Jackson Dart plugged in the middle. This ain't saving nobody's job.
No.
Come on. Let's get real. Like so here's the roadmap that I see for Jackson Dart, right? You get to camp. He's probably not better than Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston. Whatever. So you bench him, okay? Then you're sifting through the season. You stink because you weren't a good team last year. And I'm going to guess at some point during the season, Brian Daboll will get fired because they won't win any games. Look at the NFC East. They're not better than Dallas. They're not better than the Giants or than the Commanders. And they're sure as hell not better than Philadelphia. So there's a very real scenario where you win like a max 2 games in division. And I think that will be pretty good for where they are right now. You're sliding down the slope. And then what happens? Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen gets fired. Then you're hiring a head coach and general manager that have no allegiance to Jackson Dart, which is such an easy situation to see right now.
Yeah.
It would like you're already seeing to me the ramifications of not cleaning house in January because you're stuck between, well, we need Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston if we're going to do our best to compete this year. But I also need to draft this guy, so maybe I can,
who needs reps.
Maybe who needs reps? But maybe I can say, oh, John Mara, we didn't get to play Jackson Dart because of blah, blah. No. So you're just dooming this kid to having, one of those careers where it's 2 coaches, 3 offensive coordinators who don't, and this is all foreseeable right now, but they've decided to take this bizarre path for whatever reason.
And Dart has traits, and this was the flip side of the Shedeur Sanders thing, is like Dart has traits to work with that makes it exciting, but it was just so funny to me, Brian Dable, who's being anointed as a QB guru for some reason, is re-signed Daniel Jones, or is a part of the regime that said, let's extend him. Okay, we're good with that. All right, goes terrible. He's now in Indianapolis. Now they draft a quarterback that has the same flaws as the quarterback they just got rid of. Doesn't throw over the middle, throws a deep ball that kind of fades on them, skittish under pressure. Also, like run first. That's one quality he does have. But also best off play action. That's what Jackson Dart did a lot. He's going to have to develop a drop back passing game and to be able to read the whole entire field. These are the exact same things that Daniel Jones was going through. Yep. I guess you reset and say, hey, we got him day one and we can work with it. And I get it. Like coaches and stuff really like Dart's personality. He's competitive. He's tough. I get all that. And that is something that is appealing to like this guy can be the guy. It's just rich. And it's for a team that cannot do anything rich.
The good thing is they didn't have to give up too much. Like they didn't give up like next year's
especially after the Falcons pick
rounder.
happened right after.
Right. So definitely that's like the only silver lining. But also like, Daniel Jones, like I don't think this got discussed enough last year, but his arm had clearly died on him. Yes. Because want to know why? Because he's like, Daniel Jones is a pretty good runner, and he go out there and he get himself smoked. Right. And I mean, look, John Gruden's John Gruden, but I saw a clip of him in his quarterback camp, like laying into Dart for making stupid decisions when he's a runner and getting himself crushed. So it's like even that's like the Daniel Jones thing, and there's like a segment of people that like wish that the draft happened before free agency. I do think for the Giants it would be nice if that was the case, because now like what's the point of what is the point of Jameis Winston being on this roster? Like
I know that
but even Russell Wilson, like because like Russ, you're right. Russ is not going to mentor Jackson Dart for a single second, because like Russ is on his last legs. He's trying to still establish himself and keep like himself as a starting quarterback.
Backseat in New York?
No way. Like he went to New York to be in the front seat. So like now he's not invested in mentoring Dart. Like even if Brian Daboll survives the year, it's the same situation with the Colts. Like what is the scenario where he's back next year? Like Dart has 5 promising-ish games. Like, no, that never happens.
What's funny about the Dable quarterback whisper stuff is when you look at the times where things got tough for Daniel Jones, what's the first thing Brian did? Take the damn ball out of his hands.
Yeah. Right? And show him up on the sideline, too, by the way.
We're either going to, when Saquon Barkley's on the team, I remember there's a game against, I want to say it was Jacksonville, where they had the ball in the last minute of the game, and they gave it to Saquon 9 times in a row. And that could close that game, right? And then you fast forward even to last year when you got Tyron Tracy under center. What does Brian do when Daniel can't throw the ball? We're going high school wing tee offense, bro. We got quarterback sweeps. We're running pitches. So quarterback whisper stuff doesn't mean anything to me because I do think Dable's a solid enough play caller. Doesn't quite have the horses.
The game plans are actually pretty good.
Game plans are fine. But a quarterback whisper from a guy who's going to pull that ball from his quarterback, it doesn't quite work. And like you said, we've seen Dable on the sideline tear it into Daniel Jones, tearing off from the players. So for a young quarterback that needs to be built up,
I know
this is kind of an interesting fit.
And you've talked about like the players on this roster too. Like they have Malik Neighbors. That's it.
Like Tracy.
He's fine. Like, and again, it's a lot of guys like they're acceptable to play. Like, I think it's not embarrassing that Tyron Tracy's your starting running back. It's not embarrassing that Darius Slayton's your second outside receiver. I'm not gonna say anything about Wando Robinson, but like, it's just not. It's not. None of these guys, other than Neighbors, move the needle, and I just like that's not a good situation for a young quarterback.
Yeah, Abdul Carr will be fun at least.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. They did have another first.
That's okay. Yeah, nice little recreate the NASCAR package. Giants defense still bullish on them. The other trade that happened that kicked off the draft, actually, essentially, was the Browns and Jaguars having a little deal there. You already talked about the Mason Graham selection being the repercussion, I guess, or the reward, I guess, for the Browns for moving back down to 5. But the Jaguars moved up from 5 to 2. James Gladstone, Liam Cohen, F them picks. He is a Les Snead disciple. Move up to 2, takes Travis Hunter, Heisman Trophy winner, purple chip talent, number 1 corner, number 1 receiver. Everyone knows Travis Hunter. But what do you think right now, Matt, or what do you think of the projection of Travis Hunter in a Jaguars uniform, how they might use him?
Yeah, Liam Cohen came out and said that he sees him as an offensive player first. That's how it's going to start. And I do think we always want everything to happen right away. I do think this will be a journey for Travis in terms of what he becomes. Even if he's not a full-time player as a rookie on both sides of the ball, maybe he could eventually grow into that once he does. Because I think you guys have done a good job pointing this out about his lack of refinement as a receiver. And as much as I love him as a separator, there's a difference between being an elite separator and an elite route runner. Right. I do think he can be an elite separator right away because he's just, he's a freak show. Yeah. He's an unbelievable move. He has rare movement skills in addition to his rare ball skills. So he can be that elite separator, especially in this offense that puts guys in conflict. And like I said, Jalen McMillan's making plays down the field wide ass open because of the separation and space this offense is able to create. So he can be an instant impact player. He needs more growth on that side of the ball. So it makes sense to throw him into the deep end as a receiver and then, kind of develop him slowly as a cornerback. So on offense, though, I do think this, as much as the Browns taking him at second would have been understandable because he's so dynamic, he would have had to be the capital T, capital M man over there in Cleveland. He doesn't have to be that. Brian Thomas Jr. is a guy who can play all 3 receiver positions. Cohen's already talked about how high on him as a slot receiver that he is, and obviously Travis Hunter in 2023 he was mostly a slot receiver, and then last year he was only an X receiver. So I think having those 2 guys in conflict, that is a very, very dangerous offense.
I know. Liam Cohen and that Bucs offense last year was so screen heavy in a good way. Baker Mayfield threw more screens than anybody. If not number 1, he was number 2. It's him and Mahomes. Yeah. They threw the most screens, most throws behind the line of scrimmage, receivers, running backs, tight ends. They used them all. Travis Hunter is exceptional at a lot of things. Exceptional on screens. Yeah. That's one little quirk of this or one little match here. I'm very excited. But Charles, what do you think? Do you think on defense, Travis Hunter, what do you think about the fit there with Jacksonville?
It'll be interesting because I just don't see a world where you can be an offensive player first and play cornerback and dabble in that. There's too much communication. There's too much coordination. These coverages are too complex. The idea to me that, you'll just go out there on 3rd down and play corner, that's insane. Because I'll find the guy. You might be a best athlete, but you don't know what you're doing. Right. If you're having practice as much with defense,
I guess you can only play man coverage.
Right.
So then it's Travis Hunter a man.
Yeah, they're blitzing if Travis is on the field or something like that. So it'll be interesting just to see how you distribute that. So you don't, if you do want to play both ways. That was kind of the case the other way too. If you wanted to play mostly defense and play offense, well, how do we get it so when Travis comes on the field, everyone doesn't already know what play we're running?
Yeah, right.
So you have to figure that out for yourself. But I do think that if you're playing defense, you potentially have 2 CB1s on the field with a pass rush that could use it. Because obviously Josh Hines-Allen's a great player. Trayvon Walker's a solid number 2. But those guys could still benefit from having a healthy CB tandem that they haven't had over the past few years with Tyson Campbell missing injury. So it'll be fascinating, because if you see him as the offensive player first, my question would be well, then what role do you see him playing on defense? Because it's just really hard. There's so much coordination. And defenses, when you're looking at coverages, it's a whole lot of 7 guys have the right answers to a bunch of if-then equations. If this receiver breaks this way, then you're going that way, I'm going this way. You can't really do that if you're not on the field every play. So I think if you're going to do offensive first, you have to just live in that world.
Do we have a sense of what Jacksonville is going to be on defense?
Not really.
Right. For health on the secondary end, then just hammering them.
It's from a scheme perspective. Obviously, it's easy to see. We know what Cohen probably wants to be on offense, and just the whole trickle down effect there. But it's a very inexperienced staff too. That also has
that's
to handle
another thing, dude. That's why I'm fine with being aggressive in the draft and everything. There's a time and a place when a player's there. It's just a lot of these things where I'm like, a lot of this is okay.
Yeah.
Let's see how the execution is.
Yeah,
it's
right.
The fact that these teams, it's now first Cleveland and now Jacksonville's going like, yep, offense first. So, chill. Like, have you guys reflected on all this and actually thought about the plan? I guess it's exciting. I want to see him on offense. I think his ball skills are tremendous. On defense, what you're speaking to, Charles, is that the match coverage rules that most defenses play these days. There's spot drop, there's man. You have to know the common route concepts of the offense. That takes film study, that takes practice, takes communication. That to me is much a thing that you have to do full time, or at least be there 80% of the time. While offense, it's like on offense, I can run up a play, call a play. All right, Travis is the Z on this play. I can just say Z dig. All right, Travis knows that. And then I could teach him that. And me, again, this is me on the outside. That's how I would do it. I think he's a special talent. I'm just curious how they actually end up deploying him. All right, we are going to take our last break and come back with a few more superlatives and wrap this up. We are back. Home stretch of the round one recap. Matt, as we go into day two, who are some of the best players remaining on the board, or ones that you want to see getting taken off the top?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious where Travion Henderson, Ohio State running back, goes because, I mean, there are a couple teams in round one that I think made sense for him. Like, I know Denver's very high on him. They were mentioned as a trade-up team in round one. Could they be a team that moves up in the second round at some point if he falls into the right range? I think Washington's another team that I think has a really high opinion of him as well. And obviously they didn't go running back in the first round. So he's just somebody that I think I'm not going to say he's landing spot dependent, but like my intrigue level with him will go up or down based on where he lands. Because I think like a coach like Sean Payton, for example, it would be really fun to see how he would deploy Henderson, because it's funny because I don't think he's like A+ receiver or an A+ runner. He's kind of just, he's such a good pass protector, obviously, but he's very useful as a potential receiver. And I also think like he's explosive as a runner, even if not like consistent as a runner. You might always need to be in you might always need to be in a tandem.
Yes.
Like obviously Denver didn't end up with Ashton Genty. That was the dream spot of like, okay, then they have to have a feature back. But usually Peyton wants to operate with these tandems. So it's just like, again, it's the spot that I want to see for him, because I think he could really be extremely useful, but further along the useful scale, like not just he's useful, like no, he's really useful to this team if it's the right landing spot.
No, I get it's like, what if Tony Pollard could pass protect?
Right.
That's
and
like
Tony Pollard,
but you get a little bulky guy with him. Oh, now we're cooking. But you're saying like he's in a split, but it's not like he's good at his split. Like that's why he has the juice to be like featured, but he needs to be with another guy.
Ask every fantasy football dork like what they were saying about Tony Pollard when he was behind Ezekiel Elliott. Right. It was always like, I'd love to see more of Tony Pollard.
And then once he had to run in short yardage, right?
And I'd love to see not Tony Pollard. Yeah,
I remember that run against the Dolphins at the end of 2023.
Oh,
the goal line. And it was like there.
Down.
That was it right there.
And that was like the 10th play like that season. So
Charles, best player remaining, or a player that you're interested to see that landing
Will
spot
Johnson by far, I think, is probably for me the best player on the board. I'm a little surprised he didn't go round one at all.
Yeah, no.
I think we talked about him potentially dropping to like the teens or early 20s, but to see no team take a bite on him, because we had, who were the cornerbacks that went around? Was it just Travis
and then Hairston
and Jahdae Barron?
Jahdae Barron, yeah,
and Barron, yeah,
right.
And
too. So Barron, I don't think is surprising at this point going over Johnson, but Harrison's a little surprising.
Yes,
especially looking at the whole body of work, because we were coming into 2024 as Will Johnson is like a no-brainer player that you don't have to think about.
He was my mid-season #1 player.
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And I understand, man. It's been a rough, probably since that moment.
Yep.
It's
since
been
the USC game onwards.
All downhill, because you have the injuries during the season. You've had multiple injuries after the season. People wondering what the hell happened. Why did you stop playing for Michigan that hard, that fast last year? So you have to answer a lot of questions. For a player, maybe you're looking at the long speed, you still haven't really gotten answers about that either. So I understand the questions piling up, but still to see him at the top of the second round is pretty interesting. But if he lasts long at the top of the second round, something
Yeah,
really poorly.
Is there a team you'd like to see him land with? Because it's like Browns, Texans, Titans, Browns, Raiders, Patriots, Bears, Saints, Bears. A couple
Saints
doubles.
makes sense.
Saints. Yeah. Who's and Titans because they have
Jets and Niners are 10 and 11 in the second
See, I
round.
mean,
Like
I'll say-
either of those teams.
Niners
Niners
actually would
nice.
make some sense.
They got extra picks too, which
They need-
they
they need
love to burn those
They
picks.
take
so.
2 running backs.
I feel like at this point, any
They should
team
do it
makes
just so they
sense.
don't.
Yeah.
Any team makes sense at this point.
He really does.
Because I mean, how often do we talk about corners like pass rushers? Just stack them, however many you can get.
And honestly, and the other analogy I've always used for corners is like pitchers of baseball. You just keep drafting them. It's like they're going to be
Raiders
healthy, they're
could
going to be
use a
volatile.
corner.
Yeah, everyone could use a corner. I mean,
I was
that's the
gonna
thing
say,
is even if
D'Amico
it's-
Ryans at the top of the second round, like offensive lineman, pass catcher, forget it. I want more DB.
because like that's the thing with like a corner, it's like offensive lineman too. It's I don't know. You can always use a guy to like how bad is his floor? Like what I mean? Like okay, all right, maybe he doesn't have the top end speed. All right, that's his ceiling. All right, well, his floor, I feel like it's pretty dang good. So, like, are we saying he's worse than a cornerback too? Like, I would take that even with injury concerns, just because the upside of getting a 2 or a 1 in the second round is tremendous.
Titans are always getting fried in the secondary too, and they're obviously high in the.
Oh God, if they take more injured people.
That's a good
John
point.
Robinson's not there anymore. I'd say I just kind of went literal with my answers here. I just went down who was best remaining on my big board. Mike Green, edge from Marshall.
Yes.
Will Johnson, already mentioned him. Mason Taylor, tight end from LSU. And then Donovan Ezeraku, edge from Boston College. This kind of felt like the range for Taylor and Ezeraku. Like this, anywhere from 20 to 40 made sense to me. And then Green, obviously there's the off-field stuff that was told that teams weren't worried about it, but it seems like they are because he just fell out of the first round, and that talent, he has first round pass rushing talent. So that obviously has concerned teams. So kind of easy to connect the dots there. All right, this is how we're going to wrap it up. One thing, Charles, you want to see on day 2?
Quarterback run. We got Shedeur Sanders on the board, Tyler Shuck still on the board, Quinn Ewers still on the board. Jalen Milroe might be the one I'm most interested in, right? Because Milroe, you can kind of see whatever you want to see there, right? I think the reason why he didn't go in the first round because the down-to-down consistency is really, really poor, really lacking. I guess consistency of good play because he is consistently inconsistent in terms of how he throws the ball. But you're looking at a guy who runs like real 4.3 speed with the ability to run in between the tackles. And every once in a while, man, that arm strength lets them uncork. It's just some of the most incredible throws down the field that you've seen.
Yeah.
But the reason why he's still on the board is because that stuff doesn't happen often enough. And honestly, even sometimes on the scrambles, he'll make some baffling decisions, like where he's running backwards, running out of bounds. If you can keep on a track and point him where to go, you can have a monster. But he's still trying to figure it out. But I'm still really excited to see where you're going.
Yeah, that was Milroe. Where I want to see the Steelers draft.
Me too.
Charles Robinson.
We are all on board with
Charles
that.
Robinson, like threw that bone to me at the end of our live show, where I was like, he's like the Zoomer Cordell Stewart, and he's like, well, yeah, they kind of see him the same way too, because if they do the Aaron Rodgers path, which it really looks like it's happening, we're talking about mentorship and all that stuff. But anyways, another discussion. But Milroe is supposed to be a great character guy. It makes a lot of sense to use him as a package player with an old quarterback like that, and use him basically how Justin Fields was used last year. But this one's a little bit easier to say, hey, our round 3 guy that we want to get on the field, not this guy that we want kind of to start. Milroe with the Steelers is just something I kind of want to see half circle because it just makes a lot of sense. Does need a lot of work as a passer, but he's interesting. And then my other one is just the running back landing spots.
Yeah.
I just want to know where everybody ends up because there's so many running backs in this tier starting now. It was, after the top 2 guys who were kind of their own tier, Genty and then Hampton, the rest 3 through like 10 for me, 3 through 11 are in this next tier. And I'm curious how the league views them because there's even a couple more guys that I'm lower on that I know people are higher on. So we'll call that 14 guys, we can even say. So that's going to be a lot of very exciting. Matt, was the one thing that you are keeping your eye on and want to see on day 2?
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm kind of playing the hits for me here, but I do think this actually is a real thing. It's the receiver run on day 2. And there's 2 reasons I think this is important. One, because I think there's a lot of interesting guys that are going to go on day 2. I mean, number one, Luther Burden falling out of the first round is not a shock, but I do think as a second round pick is a nice value. Jalen Noel is a guy that I think is an earmarked player for me that I have ranked it in a way that if you took him in the first round, I've been totally fine with it. So, and then beyond those two guys, it's like Jack Besh, Kyle Williams, Torrey Horton, Trey Harris, depending, it's all, and then it's the flavor that you need. Other people like Jaden Higgins more than me, but the right team, the right vision, I could get Denver, by the way, I think would be a great spot for him. Because basically just what Devon Vele was doing for them last year, but probably a little bit souped up there.
But 10 years younger.
Yeah, my God, 10 years younger. Speaking of old guys, the only other guy that I would have is a good third round pick is probably Andrew Armstrong out of Arkansas. And I like him more than other people do because he's got X receiver traits. But after that, it's over. Then
it's a big drop, right?
It's a big drop after that. So I think we could see a point where those pass catchers start coming off hot and heavy because the drop off there. And again, it's just all of those guys I mentioned, Jack Besh and Jalen Noel, two totally different players. So it's what do you want at the position? That's critical. And then the second point is, I think from a fantasy perspective, there could be guys that go on the second round. I was talking with our producer, Dan Harris, about this for the live show tomorrow. Could be guys that go in the second round that outproduce some of those first round receivers. Oh, yeah. Certainly Emeka Egbuka and even Matthew Golden. I love the fit with the Packers, but it's still a run heavy offense, crowded room. Jaden Reed is still there. He's going to command targets. And, a T-Mac in Carolina, probably he's maybe separate from this discussion. I think he's a big winner in all this. But those two guys, Besh is in the right spot or Kyle Williams in the right spot. I could see him being more productive than some of the round 1 guys as rookies.
I mean, and also Panthers are going to be run heavy. That's going to be their MO.
Yeah.
Dave Canales has joked about it, and their offensive line kicked a lot of butt last year, and that's what they're going to be. I do like the McMillan with the Panthers thing like that. Makes a lot of sense. That's how you help out your young quarterback. But we're closing it out today, wrapping a bow on day 1 of the NFL draft. We'll be back tomorrow night for rounds 2 and 3. Me, Matt, Charles, Jason Fitz, Charles Robinson, Jory Epstein will all be there. And we'll also have a live show on Sunday to recap all of this. Round 1, rounds 2 and 3, rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, and undrafted free agents from day 3, but we'll just be recapping it, not doing it live. But we'll be doing that on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Make sure to check us out for rounds 2 and 3 today, as you're probably listening to this, on X, on YouTube, on Facebook, and also the Yahoo Sports app. Make sure to check us out. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice. It's Charles McDonald. You can find him at 4Verts or 4_Verts. Right? Is that
no. 4_Verts. This is my doppelganger. So
okay. So just 4Verts. Just 4Verts. Or James Pierce fan number 1. And then also Matt Harmon _BYB. Subscribe to us, follow us, rate us, watch us on YouTube and the Yahoo Sports YouTube channel. Thank you so much for checking us out. Anyone that checked out the live stream, thank you for joining us. It was a ton of fun. Thank you to everyone behind the scenes. They've been kicking a lot of butt here. It's been a great time. Thank you for listening. See you guys next time.